Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire on Max. Almost said HBO Max, but it's Max at the moment. And this popped off yesterday, and I watched it. It's an hour and 55 minutes, and it's enjoyable. I mean, the human stuff kind of gets in the way of most of the monster kind of things, because it's just underbaked. That's the thing is with these kind of movies, you don't really need to dive too much into certain kind of things. I understand trying to connect with Gia and Dr. Andrews, and maybe to a certain extent the Bernie conspiracy theorist dude and the Trapper veterinarian guy, but honestly, when you're going for like a giant kind of kaiju movie, you normally kind of want just like the kaiju action. However, there are certain ones, normally other kind of Godzilla movies, that are able to better kind of balance it. Now, there can be ways to make sure that your human stuff works out and is actually kind of fleshed out and actually adds to what's going on with the whole kaiju rampaging stuff going on. That doesn't really happen here. They do like the most surface level stuff to be like, let's just get to the monster action, which works in its kind of favor, though granted there are certain kind of things that I wish that they'd kind of delved in a little bit deeper. So Kong's doing his shit in the Hollow Earth, is kind of having a bad time about it because he's lonely and shit. He's doing traps and shit around there, killing these other kind of things. He's got an infected tooth. That becomes important because we get introduced to the Titan veterinarian Trapper, who like replaces a tooth with like a kind of composite thing, which is actually kind of cool. And Godzilla's pretty much going around fucking up every kind of Titan on the surface. So Kong's got the Hollow Earth, Godzilla's got the surface. He's just beating on kind of wholesale ass. Godzilla takes out this one Titan in Rome and then takes a nap in the Colosseum, which is kind of funny that that's his nap spot because that's how it happens in the beginning and at the end. So we pretty much have Godzilla kind of roaming around the Earth because Kong did this kind of trap thing, and then this signal pretty much was kind of going out, and that then brings us to Gia and Andrews, who the kid's having a hard time adjusting to school. I mean, she's deaf and she's from the Iwi culture, and she doesn't really kind of feel like she's belonging. She communicates with her mother. However, she's also pretty much having psychic things that are lining up with what the outpost in the Hollow Earth is kind of doing, and it took like a little bit for Dr. Andrews to kind of figure that out, and even the conspiracy theorist Bernie to be like, yeah, these are like the same things. Because a teacher was explaining certain kind of things, and Gia just kind of started going into a kind of trance-like thing, and just started doing this, just like, alright, fine. So they see that everything's kind of going crazy-ass shit. They decide to go and investigate in the Hollow Earth. They bring Bernie, Gia, the Trapper dude, and they kind of go down there. Everything's kind of like fucked up at the outpost. They're like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? And we see that Kong has also gone through on his little adventure and finds more of his ape brethren. This pretty much could explain what's kind of going on later on. And the mini kind of Kong Suko at first is kind of an asshole. He first gets attacked by these apes with their weapons, but he pretty much kicks their asses and pretty much gets Suko to be like, hey, you little asshole, take me to your people. Dude tries to like set another kind of Titan-ass dude on Kong, and Kong's like, fuck this shit, and is able to kill it and eat it, and also offer food to Suko. And they get there, and this is when it kind of lines up with the other humans. This one, Mikhail dude, gets pretty much eaten by a tree. We also get some weird... And as this goes on, another kind of strange thing that this movie does is it kind of goes along the Suicide Squad route of music. However, it's more like the director liked the music and just put it in rather than it actually fitting the scene. Like, sometimes I'm watching a movie and I'm thinking, oh, this kind of song would kind of go here, this kind of song would go there as well. It's not just one that I would just be like, we get to a point where Kong needs like some assistance, and we've got Kisses, I Was Made for Loving You going on, and I'm like, why? And then also some Loverboy. Now granted, I'm a fan of Loverboy's music. It just didn't seem to fit. There's some weird shit that goes on with this. However, that kind of links up with what's kind of going on here, as Kong pretty much gets introduced to the apes, and we find out that there's an iwi culture here, and they're underground. They worship Mothra. They have gravity-defying pyramids that they utilize, and then Andrews is pretty much shown these hieroglyphics, and the iwi culture communicates telepathically. And it's like, okay, yeah, they were sending the distress signal because due to their prophecy, someone from the Skull Island, Gia, has to come back and bring back Mothra through fuckball means and pretty much help Godzilla take out the Scar King, which we get introduced to with Kong being brought there, and we see that he's a tyrant asshole who wants to take over the surface. Also, somehow has a crystal that enables him to control this other Titan, Shimu, whose breath is a glacier kind of ice age inducing kind of thing. It's similar along the lines to kind of Godzilla to a degree, but not really. Similar kind of dorsal fins and breath attacks, but it's more crystal dorsal fins rather than Godzilla's more kind of reptilian scale-like ones, if that makes any kind of sense. But evidently, this one crystal can, like, introduce pain, and that's how Scar has been, like, utilizing it for control and everything. Pretty much beats Kong's ass and like, Frost bites his arm, and then, and also kills, like, Zuko's friend or whatnot, or guardian. And then Kong's able to escape. He loses his axe, and then Scar King got it. We see that Godzilla's been kind of roaming around and has been hearing the distress signal as well, taking out some other Titans, eating radiation in France, getting to the Arctic to then get pretty much Super Saiyan powered up, kills the one Titan that made it Slayer there, absorbs pretty much the solar radiation to become magenta, Super Saiyan style. I'm like, okay, at least we didn't take out his blue, but I'm fine with a kind of power up like that. I understand that was mainly the director's favorite color, and out of any kind of thing, that at least works of it being a power up kind of level. And then Godzilla's pretty much trying to figure out what's going on. Kong gets brought to the iwi people. They pretty much come up with this whole thing where they're trying to pretty much bring Godzilla down there with Mothra to take on them and to make sure that they don't get up to the surface world. So Kong then gets administered by Trapper, and they were evidently thinking of ways to augment Kong, which was their Operation Powerhouse by Monarch, and they give him this is where the Kiss song pretty much comes in. I'm like, okay, they put it on his arm, and it kind of heals it, and he's now augmented, and it's able to stand up to some pretty gnarly Titan stuff. We see that he gets to the surface in Cairo, and Godzilla's like, fuck yo shit, man, and Kong's like, wait. It's just like, alright, we already did this. We already had them kind of fighting and shit. Do we really need to do this again? Now, granted, see, it's a kind of balancing act. You don't have to completely re-hit on the greatest kind of hits. I think at almost 2 hours, at least this portion could have been cut. And if you're doing monster kind of action, really kind of sell that kind of monster kind of action. I mean, Mothra pretty much gets pokeballed out of fuckballs nowhere by Jaya. I'm like, alright. Though I do like Mothra's design. It's very nice. The graphics for the CGI are very well done here. Especially within regards to the monsters, because it's a monster movie. If you fuck out on that shit, what's the goddamn point? So, we pretty much get set up. We get the Hero Titans pretty much fighting a little bit before Mothra's like, fucking stop your shit, and then pretty much gets them pulled down as they start racking and cracking ass as the shit's kind of going gnarly. We get pretty much some red shirt apes kind of getting thrown around. Zuko having some of its own kind of like little thing of fighting. Kong gets his axe back. Scar King, Shimu, Godzilla, and Kong get blasted up to the surface world and fight in Rio de Janeiro. It's like, interesting. And Shimu's pretty much starting to try and do like a glacial ice age kind of thing. But we see each one kind of doing in their own kind of thing. Kong's arm really kind of helping him out here. and Godzilla pretty much using his breath blast to do a lot of kind of cool shit to get the Scar King kind of out, but they get the crystal away from him, and of course, Suko pops up and gives Kong his axe, gets that away, and Shima's like, fuck you, Scar King, so ices him, and Kong, like, throws him and bashes him to pieces before everything's all cool. Godzilla then utilizes pretty much the rest of his power up to take out the Ice Age kind of thing, and then goes to take a nap back at the Coliseum, while Kong gets back down underneath the surface to take control of the ape tribe and become their new leader, and Jai still decides to go back with Dr. Andrews. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, like, most of it was pretty good. I liked the kaiju fighting, big monster action and everything kind of going on. It was well done. Those were pretty much my favorite parts. The human stuff was pretty much to get from point A to point B, but I think there can be precedent of just making a giant monster movie with giant monsters doing giant monster things. Like, yes, it's harder to do without dialogue or whatnot, but I don't see how it can't be done. And the thing is, if you're going to involve the humans, do it well enough. Now here, I could argue that it's a little bit thin and that they just really needed to kind of hone it together a little bit more to actually be that connective tissue to get us from point A to point B to point C, and kind of make sure that the action kind of works and do its kind of effect. It's kind of the same kind of idea of how to utilize an action movie like John Wick. You don't let the plot and the characters get in the way. You get them into such a kind of groove that it just works together and gets us to where we need to go. And yeah, we got that with Scar. Was an interesting kind of one. I liked the utilization of a kind of whip-like weapon against Kong and how he kind of fought like that. I just wish that there was a little bit more of it, because it's an intriguing kind of villain that can control other kind of monsters and do it in a kind of nasty, menacing, cruel kind of way. And I wish that we'd actually kind of dug into that and seen his fighting style a little bit more. I understand that it's like it was really expensive, probably budget-wise, to do what was kind of going on, but I think we needed more time of building him up, setting him up on Kong, having that kind of initial defeat, and then having Kong really kind of go at his ass. Yeah. And then getting that kind of team up with Godzilla. And of course, it's a Godzilla movie, too. That's the thing. It almost feels like they should have done the Scar King as his own kind of thing with Kong. Like, almost having his own kind of movie. Kong then getting beaten and then doing a team up with Godzilla to kind of get vengeance and fight his ass. I just had that thought. That would have been a little bit more interesting kind of route to go. Now, I am glad that I didn't go to see this in theaters because it's just kind of more comfortable at home. So if you've got Max, you've got HBO through your cable provider or whatnot, or you're subscribing through the streaming service, I would definitely recommend it. I don't see it as 2 hours wasted. I do think there definitely could have been some more cutting and editing and shifting of things around to be... I think this could have been a nice 90-minute movie. Taking out about 25 minutes or whatnot, and just really focus on the kaiju action and the giant monsters doing giant monster things, and getting the humans to kind of connect to it. Or if anything, if this needed to be an hour and 55 minutes, almost 2 hours, beef up the human kind of stuff to make it at least enjoyable enough to watch. Like, it wasn't a thing that I would be like, oh, this really completely and utterly sucked and you could have taken everything out of it. It's interesting that Jaya was trying to figure out who she is, finding her culture underneath in the hollow earth. These are interesting kind of things. However, the objective is Godzilla x Kong fighting a motherfucker. And granted, we got that motherfucker fight, so yeah. Yeah, if you're into this, I think this would work out very well for you, but don't expect a really good and tight plot. Don't expect really good kind of characters. Action-wise, if you're into action, yes. Gore-wise, they go more for green blood, so think you're a little bit more safe on that kind of route, but no, it's not really gory. But yeah, don't go on. There is some kind of lore building of like the Hollow Earth and the Iwi culture and everything, but not really extensive. Don't make that your main kind of thing. This is monster action movie. That's what you're gonna get. And if that doesn't sound good to you, that's quite alright. I quite understand that. But yeah, I got enjoyment out of this, and I'm glad that I watched it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.